Hello and welcome to the Dricus du Plessis show. Thank you to everyone that has liked and subscribed and wherever you watch or listen to your favorite podcast. Thanks for joining us. Today's guest is the president of K1 South Africa, Morné Lotter. He's been tasked with saving the sport. He's got a new organization that is changing the game as we know it. It's a fascinating conversation about kickboxing and the groundswell of combat sports taking the world by storm. Morné Lotter, thanks for making time, for coming in as the president of WKU K1 South Africa. It's fascinating to find out what's happening in the world of kickboxing because MMA, Dricus du Plessis, the UFC, now PFL Africa coming to Cape Town in July, boxing, all these things taking center stage. Fill us in, man. What's been going on? I know there's exciting news around what you guys have been up to, but I feel like K1 is just in the shadows at the moment.
Thanks, Sias. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on the show.
You're always welcome, man, anytime.
What you're saying is 100% correct. We see a big flare-up with mixed martial arts, especially, like you said, PFL Africa. That's great for African combat sport. So with K1, there were quite a lot of challenges in the past. I mean, our golden era, would be in the 90s with Mike Bernardo, even Dricus himself being a K1 world champion.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot of talent here for K1, but there were certain things that's missing that we had to address, and that's why we created this new organization to specifically focus on the development of K1 and the promotion of it. So it's early days for us. We launched, we opened our membership last year, September, so it's very early.
Brand new.
Yeah, brand new. But we've done a lot in this short time, and I think moving like we are doing now, I think K1 might be in the spotlight very soon, and our hopes is to make it a mainstream sport. That's what we're aiming for. So yeah, I think the near future, we'll see a lot of big developments.
Combat sports is what a lot of people talk about. Yes, you've got your traditional football, cricket, soccer, rugby, whatever it is. Especially in South Africa, we have our big three. But in the last sort of 18 months, I feel like combat sports is front and center once again. And I'm not just saying the MMA side of things or the boxing, but in general, I think there's this change, this mindset change. And I think that opens the door for K1 once again to say, hang on again, mixed martial arts, we're part of the martial arts. We deserve our time in the spotlight yet again.
Definitely. I think it definitely does. If you look at the origins of K1, which we'll chat about now soon, you'll understand it's designed for spectator value. That's where it came from, and that's what's created it. So it's a thing that I think will take off big time when people get used to it. The problem is when K1 started off, which I'll explain shortly about the history of it, but when it took off, there was no social media. We didn't have this powerhouse that we can push media out into the public. So a lot of these people, many people don't even know who someone like Mike Bernardo is.
Yeah.
And he was an absolute legend. I saw a highlight video of him the other day. Again, you get chills. You're like, geez, this was like, this guy he's a legend. But many people don't know. So I think now that we have these platforms at our disposal and we've got a team that understands it, a team that can produce the content and get the athletes into the general public's minds, I think now things will change.
Yeah, that content play is huge. I know a lot of people, to our subscribers, if you're watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, we do appreciate that. How they consume combat sports is evolving, and it's this insatiable appetite. People want to see people fighting, and I'm bringing it down to the lowest possible level. If there's a bar fight outside, and I'm not saying, and it's the same thing, but it's human nature to be dialed into that raw combat, that raw fighting. Take it into a professional space, like with K1, with the MMA world, the boxing world, there's always an audience. How you consume it, if it's on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, on a big TV screen at the pub, or if it's at home, people are always going to see or want to see people fighting. And I think there's an opportunity in that content going out because everyone loves a knockout, regardless of how gruesome it could be. And that is what K1 offers, right? You get that spectacular knockout. You get that go forward pressure. You get that aggression. And for the purist that loves the jiu-jitsu side of things and the wrestling, K1 is very different.
It is very different. And like you said now, the combat sports scene changed. I mean, I take myself, I started competing in mixed martial arts. I mean, the last time I competed and did mixed martial arts was like 12 years ago. And if I look at 12 years ago and you look at the sport now, it changed. Everything changed. I mean, just how we do business has changed. So sports evolve and everything evolves. And I think one of the big problems that we faced with the promotion of K1 is people try to replicate what worked in the 90s to replicate it now. And times have changed. The platforms have changed. The mediums have changed. Strategies have changed. Even if you just look at the technical aspect of mixed martial arts, for example, the athletes that are produced today, if you compare them to 15 years ago, it's different. So I think one of the big problems is innovation, understanding how times have changed and how to change with the times. I think that's one thing that did put the sport of K1 and kickboxing as a whole back over the last few years. And where other sports like MMA that embraced the change and used the new platforms, it excelled dramatically.
As president of the organization, we will get into your vision, because I think you've touched on the changes and the change in approach that's required. But take me back to the origins of K1. We keep going on about guys like Mike, Dricus, but there's not a lot of tape on these guys competing because it was a different time. Now today, even if you've had 3 professional fights, there's tape somewhere, right? Yep. It's on YouTube, someone's clipped it, or it's on Instagram, whatever it may be, God forbid TikTok, and you've been knocked out. But I think the important thing is this combat sports tidal wave. And I think it's important. It is a tidal wave right now. We need to collectively all be on the same wavelength, because there's an abundance of talent, not just South Africa. Africa is a pipeline to the massive organizations. You are taking the bull by the horns with your organization, saying, here's a platform. You don't necessarily have to do MMA. You can do one martial art and kickboxing, and you can forge your career out of there. And I think that's key to where this is going in terms of the development of this wonderful sport, because it is an incredible sport. But I just think it's been a little bit neglected for a long time. So take me back to how this all came about, the origins. Also, how did you get into this sport that captivated millions for a very long time and still does today?
So to answer the question about where K1 came from, I think a starting point would be where kickboxing came from, because that's something that a lot of people talk about. So when someone says to you, or you ask someone, what is kickboxing?
Yeah.
The answer is...
What gloves do they wear? Is there,
what are the rules?
Yeah.
So this answer is going to depend on the region. Because if you look at it, if I can explain it like this, you've got American kickboxing, Dutch kickboxing, Chinese kickboxing, French kickboxing, Japanese kickboxing. There's different variations.
Yeah.
It's not one thing. But when people think of it, they've got a picture. Now, kickboxing is a complex thing, and the history is quite complex, because the best I can explain it, it's an umbrella term. So when I say kickboxing, many people think of the long pants that people wear in the boxing ring, and that would be American kickboxing. Yeah. So if I explain the history, the brief history, like I'll obviously skip a lot of details, but just to keep it short.
We got time, man. We got time.
So with American kickboxing, if we can start there. So in the 1950s, 1960s, sport karate was quite big in the West. And if you look at sport karate, that was more of a point fighting style. Yeah. So if you've watched Karate Kid or you watched the Cobra Kai series, right? And you look at those tournaments, that's point fighting, where a fighter would score a point, referee says stop, 1 point, fight. So it's a point-stop flow. Now, a lot of things transpired, but a lot of people say, you know what, that's a limited way of fighting. It doesn't flow like a real fight. And then eventually they started creating full contact karate. And that led to organizations like the PKA or the World All Styles Karate Organization, which today is WKU, which is now a kickboxing organization. So they started to put these karate matches, and that's where the long pants came from. It's the karate gi pants, kicks above the waist, which was karate, foot sweeps, and then they started incorporating boxing gloves for Western boxing elements. So that's where American kickboxing came in, and people like Joe Louis, Bill Wallace, these legends in American kickboxing started to take the scene. And because of America's media power, it came to the front lines quite quickly. So that was American kickboxing. Then you have, for example, Dutch kickboxing, which has got its roots in Kyokushin karate. Very hard style, emphasis on boxing and low kicks. Then you've got, for example, French kickboxing in the form of savate. You've got Chinese kickboxing in the form of sanshao or sanda, which has got more wrestling elements, throws, and all these kind of things in there. So again, kickboxing depends on what you're talking about. So now if we look at the modern landscape, we've got, let me take an example. One of the global organizations has got 7 different kickboxing modes that they're regulating. So now we're talking about, number one, they refer to it as forms, which comes from the traditional karate, which you do almost like katas when you do karate, so musical forms, which they put a gymnastic element to it, like you have to do flips and weapons and all these things sometimes. You've got forms. Then you've got your point fighting, which comes from sport karate.
Yeah.
Then you've got your high kick kickboxing or American kickboxing as a mode. Then you've got low kick, and then you've got your K1. Now, kickboxing generally is divided into ring sport, and we refer to it as tatami. Now, tatami is a Japanese word referring to mats. So you'll see sometimes kickboxing matches happening on a mat, and the others happen in the ring. So these are 2 legs of kickboxing, if you will.
Okay.
So on the mats, you've got your light contact modes, where you've got your points, your forms, where they call it light contact kickboxing, and then they've got low kick rules, but light contact.
Yeah.
Then in the ring, you've got your American kickboxing, which is the high kicks, you've got your low kicks, and you've got your K1. So there's a lot to regulate there. So what we've done is we said, listen, we want to put our focus on one thing. And we took K1 rules and we started an organization to regulate and develop that specifically. So that's pretty much where our focus went.
Okay.
But now back to the point. So now if you look at, it was in 1988, for example, there was a fight between Rick Rufus and it was an American kickboxing champion, multiple time champion. And he fought against a Thai boxer. And what they did is they had a hybrid rule set that was like American kickboxing, but with low kicks, and there was no clinching, no elbows. So the Muay Thai guy was a bit of a disadvantage. So they came to this match, and Rick Rufus was quite skilled, and early in the fight he got a knockdown against the Thai fighter. But then what happened was, because American kickboxing doesn't do low kicks, the Thai fighter started spamming low kicks, chopping his legs. And in the 5th round, he beat Rick Rufus. Then something happened. People realized, hey, low kicks are very effective. And, there was quite a big thing about it. And that revolutionized American kickboxing to a certain degree, where people started training low kicks. So, for example, Rick Rufus and his brother Duke, they started training low kicks now and started fighting these fights. So that kind of created a new spotlight on low kick kickboxing.
Okay.
Right? So then K1 didn't exist yet. So now if we go and move to the other side of the globe and we go to Japan, now you look at, there was a karate master named Kazuyoshi Ishii, and he came from Kyokushin karate. Now in Kyokushin, all the listeners that might not be familiar with it, it's a very hard, tough style of karate. Full contact, and the rules are generally punches to the body, no gloves, kicks to the legs, knees, but you can use leg attacks to the head. Kick to the head, knee to the head, but no punches to the head. So Kazuyoshi Ishii said, listen, I'm going to create what's called Seito Kaiken karate, which was his own style. Now, a lot of things also transpired there, but eventually ended up there. And that allowed punches to the face, right? So now
this is constantly evolving.
Constantly. And now we created that. And they put up shows, like they had a big event where they used the full contact karate. They fought in a boxing ring with the karate. And if you go look at these content, you can sometimes find the videos where you see people like Andy Hugh, who fought in K1, and Peter Ertz, for example. They fought in these Seito Kaiken events. And then what happened was it gained popularity, and then he started to challenge foreigners. So you had Muay Thai guys fighting the full contact karate guys in the ring, and you had Taekwondo guys fighting them, and this drew a very big crowd. And eventually they said, we see an opportunity here. Then in 1993, they hosted the first K1 event. Now, years to explain that, I can actually move to the UFC, which a lot of people would relate to.
Of course, yeah.
So
you're
UFC,
educating us here. You're educating, and I appreciate that, really.
So the UFC, obviously the first one was on 12th of November 1993 in Denver, Colorado. So the concept there was simple. Create an arena with limited rules, invite all the martial artists, and fight and see who's the best. That was the concept. And in the beginning, you had a purist karate guy and a purist wrestler coming into the arena. Now, as these events kept happening, people started realizing that they need broader skill sets because the rules allow different styles of fighting. Now, the boxer might go get a wrestling coach, and he might get a guy to help him with kicks. And now you have these multiple coaches to learn these multiple skills. But now, what happened with time, because the concept or the event concept was so popular, more and more of these events where you can use all these skills became more popular, which led to the creation of MMA as a sport on its own. But originally, it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
Originally, you just had like 4 or 5 different coaches to do all these things. Now you can go into a gym and you can say, I want to do MMA.
Yeah.
as a sport, and they can teach it to you as a singular style. Now, the UFC was the one who drove the creation of this style because they created the platform. Now, why I'm explaining that, similar thing happened to K1. They created K1 as a promotion. This is the arena to come fight at. And what they wanted to do is similar to the UFC. They wanted to see who's the best strikers. So they said, we're going to invite strikers from Muay Thai and American kickboxing, and we're going to see who's the best. So the K in K1 stands for karate, kung fu, kickboxing. Some versions also say it's a Japanese word that relates to combat sport. And then the 1 is 1 champion. And in terms of like the Grand Prix they host, 1 weight class. So the 1. So that's where the K1 came from. So then they created this arena, and ironically also in 1993. So their first event was on the 30th of March in Tokyo, and the first UFC was the 12th of November 1993. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So they started this arena, but now the panel sat and said, okay, if we're going to invite people from different styles, we need a rule set that caters for everybody that's a mid-ground. So the Muay Thai guys like the clinch. Most of their game is strong in the clinch. But now you've got guys like American kickboxing who don't clinch at all. So they designed this hybrid rule set as a midway. We said limited clinching to keep the fights flowing. And obviously the fighters wear boxing gloves. Yeah. They can punch in the face. And they created what's called K1 rules. And now the events were spectacular. Like to the viewers, if you haven't watched the K1 events, watch it. It is old, but go watch it. So
it's wild.
It's wild. So from 1993 to 2006 was the golden era. And that was insane. All the legends like Ernesto Host, everybody came from there. So if you look at that, you see the exciting nature of K1. Now, Kazuyoshi Ishii's vision was to create more spectator value out of combat sport. That's what he wanted to do.
Sure.
Now, the rules were designed to make it action-packed. And you'll see there's a lot of knockouts in the K1 if you watch it. Yeah. And the reason is because of the rules. It's very high-paced. And the easiest to explain it would be like high-paced Muay Thai, pretty much. So there's no elbows in K1. The clinching is very limited. So, for example, in our organization, you've got a 1-second clinch. You can grab knee or grab sweep, and that's it, and then break and fight.
Yeah.
So it flows a lot. So the pace is very high. So for styles, it's got a lot of wrestling, grappling, or clinching. The pace tends to drop a little bit because I can tie you up.
Sure.
With K1, it's not allowed, or you can't. If you clinch without wanting to strike, it's seen as a foul. You have to clinch, strike, let go, and keep fighting. So it's very fast. So they created these rules. K1 blew up insanely. Like the crowds were packed. The show was amazing. It was awesome. Then what happened? The rules became viral, very popular. So throughout the globe, the K1 rules started to spread. Now the same thing happened with MMA and the UFC. K1 now became a separate sport and no longer just an organization.
Yeah.
So now you had different kickboxing bodies. So in the world, there's so many of them. I mean, you've got, I'm not going to list all of them, but you've got like
considerable amount.
Yeah, you've got the World Kickboxing Organization, which is WKO. Then you've got WKA, IKF, WKU, WACO, ISKA. There's so many, WKN. So there's a lot of bodies. Now these bodies took K1 rules as a style and put it into their organizations. So now the sport became a thing, but it grew out of the K1 promotion, the K1 show. And that's pretty much how K1 got popularized. Yeah. Now K1 today is seen as the, you could say, arguably the most exciting kickboxing style because it allows low kicks, it allows knees, it allows limited clinching. So that's kind of where it came from. And what's interesting, both MMA and K1 had a top-down approach in terms of it started as pro, and then we had to develop amateur afterwards. You see, not like the other way around, which is quite interesting.
The pipeline came
it's
later.
Yeah, exactly. So the same with like with MMA. To create the amateur structure of MMA afterwards, was quite a challenge to do all these things. Now K1 is pretty much the same. So that's, in a nutshell, the history of where K1 came from, what it is, and like I said, it's more of a hybrid style, if that makes sense.
But it pleases the fans and it put bums on seats, right? And that's what the sort of, I suppose, thinking is to make it more exciting, to move away from the point scoring, slow delay. And I think it's fascinating because everyone you kind of talk about in martial arts and mixed martial arts, there's some sort of link to kickboxing or karate, right? Like if it was as a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old, someone went to a lesson because mom's friends or whatever it was. So there is this golden thread. But it is fascinating to see how the two have kind of split off. UFC, I mean, MMA has exploded. It's UFC doing 300 and whatever events, 15, 16 events now, plus the fight nights, you name it. But I see this opportunity now with this wave for K1 to really move into a space now where it's not that it hasn't been taken seriously, but I think it's to forge an identity of its own, because when everyone goes MMA, they go UFC, right? They don't go, oh, it's actually mixed martial arts. There are the educated few, and there are people that are getting more educated. But I feel at the same time, there's a lot that needs to be done to educate people about what K1 looks like, the jiu-jitsu elements of MMA, the wrestling, the striking, the boxing, and to sort of put it all into this wonderful combat sports tidal wave that is happening at the moment. As a fight fan, I just love it. And the more that we have, the better.
No, for sure. And like you said, education with K1 is going to be our biggest thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing, to try and explain to people what it is. And like I said, we've got tremendous talent here. We've got athletes that, you know, are world class.
Yeah.
But there's certain things like, for example, the support they need to get to the world stage and the exposure to be seen. And that's one thing that we found throughout the years. I mean, let's just take a step back to what you said earlier. People who are combat sport fans like to watch fights.
Yeah.
Even the way they watch fights has changed. Now, obviously, it's not the same as what it was. Now you can get it on demand, which in the past, you couldn't do it. So, and also how they consume the media is different.
Yeah.
So with that, you also have to adapt. If you want to ride, like you say, ride the tidal wave, to get the athletes onto the main platform, you have to. And one of the things that people do enjoy, and that's why people like Conor McGregor and those people got so well known in such a short time, people like the personalities, they like the story, they like the excitement behind this individual. And if you want to make, well, you could say, names in combat sport, you got to learn to promote that, because that's what people want to see.
Yeah.
The thing in the 90s, and that's why I referred, where I say some, approaches and strategies are, I believe, outdated, is because back in the day, people competed, and it was, let's say, I'm going to use the phrase, but let's say you've got a school hall, you put an event up there, people compete, they get their medal, they go home. Now, that's great for development purposes, but that's not going to create a career.
Yeah.
Number one, you're not being seen. There's no development of the persona. There's no brand development in the individual. So that kind of strategy will only take you so far. And to say that, yes, we had golden years back then is kind of to say, like, yeah, I'm still going to fax people today, you know?
It's a cool story, bro. That was back, but now what are we doing? Yeah,
exactly. So the things change. So we have to change the model, and that's something that we've done. We've brought a very fresh, innovative approach to it. And like I said, it's early days for us. I mean, we've already done one thing that I feel, and I'm very passionate about, is giving the athletes the support and opportunities that they, that they deserve.
Yeah.
We've got people here, and that's where we've supported a few of them now, that's got, like I said, tremendous talent, but due to financial barriers or just not being seen. One thing, when we talk about sponsors, the first thing they ask you is, what's your social media handle?
Yeah.
What kind of content do you post? Let me see. What exposure can you offer us? And that's something a lot of the fighters are not educated about, not knowing how to sell their brand, not knowing how to build their brand. So we are playing a very educative role when it comes to the athletes on how to build a career. That's our passion.
Yeah.
Is you want to build a career, you want to get somewhere. You don't want to mess around fighting amateur for 15 years and you're 36, 37, 38, and now you have to go pro. It's too late.
Yeah, it's far too late.
Yeah, so that's where we built a structure to fast track, in a sense, so that you can get into the spotlight, develop the skills you needed in a shorter time with support and structures and innovation. Yeah. That's where our model comes from.
Are you ready to become a bet influencer with Betway? Betway are introducing a world-first feature where you can make money by just sharing your betting codes. Every bet placed is generated and shared means cash profit for you. All you have to do is add 5 or more picks to your multi-bet, place your bet to generate a booking code, and share with your friends. How did this come about? Like, was it a case of you just saying things need to change? Was it like, I mean, you look around and South Africa, the guys that have actually made it. And I mean, there's been some phenomenal world champions. If you think of in the boxing world, the Hickey Butlers, they've not become multi-millionaires, right? Like, they've been successful in their sports, but where Dricus is now, he's transcended that. Like, he's made millions of dollars. not rands, dollars, because of this journey he's been on in the fight sport. And people look around and go, but we want to be like Dricus. Unfortunately, there's not enough structures in place to support these guys. And to your point, and girls, yes, the door is a bit more ajar to places like UFC, like other big promotions around the world. But there's still a massive barrier in getting the support and the buy-in from the public. So over the years, these guys have been world champions, but they've never quite seen the benefits or reaped the rewards of being that. And I suppose the reality is that it's a very difficult place to make it in, because in the fight sports, anything can happen. But the good thing is there's more opportunities now to be noticed. And if your clip is on Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or whatever it may be, you never know who's watching out there or whose timeline it lands on, and they go, holy crap, she's amazing, or he looks like a killer. You know what I mean? Is that part of the thinking, is just to showcase these talents, give them the platform? Because I imagine it's not easy securing sponsorships from a corporate industry that looks at the world champions, the Springboks. It looks at social media handles for those who are really dominating headlines in space.
Yes. And to answer that, I want to go back to what you said about what Dricus has done in the last time. It's incredible. It's amazing for combat sport in South Africa.
Yeah.
And one thing, it's like, for example, as a gym owner, how many people come in and say, I want to be a pro athlete, I want to be a world champion. You get that like weekly, you know? But people don't know what goes into it. And it's not just the physical aspect of training and competing, but something, and I want to draw it back to what you said about Dricus' success, something that he does incredibly well. Him and his team understand how to promote.
Yeah.
They understand the business aspect of combat sport. And if you don't understand that, and you don't know how to promote yourself, how to put yourself out there, how to talk well, how to sell that, that is something that you need. And if you don't have that, you're not going to get to the top. Besides, obviously, the physicality of it.
Of course, skill set and all that. And a bit of luck.
Yeah.
I mean, with all due respect, you need a little bit of luck. If it's maybe avoiding an injury or, slipping a punch or whatever it may be, because things can change like this.
Or perhaps someone withdraws, and you take the opportunity.
You get the shots, exactly.
So I think there's a lot of, I could say, subtle skills that's important for you to make it in this game. And it's not just, it's about the fighting aspect, but it's about the other things as well.
And that's what you're hoping to bring, right?
Yes.
I mean, in the new organization, in your gym, in the circles that you influence, right? Is that sharing that IP? Because you've also walked a long journey in a sport of combat sports.
Yes. I think the main thing that people misunderstand about the combat sport journey is, there's a lot of things behind the scenes that people don't know about. You see the glory, you see the fame, you see the fight, that 20, 30 minutes that you're on TV. But before that, there's a lot of things happening.
Yeah.
And, that can be a discussion for a whole day about what happens behind the scenes.
Absolutely.
So managing those things and learning how to do these subtle things that makes you a standout. Because like you said, there are hundreds and thousands of fighters that want to get to the top. It's not just to be seen, you have to be different. You have to stand out. Otherwise, you're going to fade away. I mean, if we can compare this to a different situation, let's say you start a new business. You start a business and whatever it is, you've got so many competitors, everybody competing to be the number one. And if you're not going to stand out and do things differently, you're going to fade away.
Yeah.
And you can do it differently by being a physical specimen, by just knocking everyone out in the first round. You can do it by becoming a personality that people really enjoy. You can be exciting. There's a lot of things you can do, but you have to stand out. Otherwise, you're not going to get to the top. You're going to fade away.
That's a great point. I mean, if I think WWE has played a huge part in shaping the villains, the heroes, the characters, the people you love to hate, right? And I think combat sports, it's rubbed off on that, because you're right. A lot of people will say, I'll do my talking in the hex, the octagon, the boxing ring, whatever it may be. But you need to have something that makes you stand out. And some guys, English might not be their first language, so they do it literally through knocking people out or whatever it may be, or they're a demon on the ground. But a lot of people need to be in that space where they are commanding attention because people want to hear what they want to say. I mean, Shell Sonnen does it incredibly well, quickly to jump on YouTube, and he gives his thoughts and people react to that, and it divides opinions. And I think that's the beauty of combat sports. We will never 100% agree on an athlete because we have differing opinions and how we interpret that. And I suppose to circle back to what you're saying and how you develop that talent, how you develop that mindset, because there's a winning mindset that comes with that self-belief, that exposure to combat sports, and that exposure to experience, and that mentorship role that you currently play, that has to filter down in developing that next talent, because Dricus will retire one day. Cameron Simon, who knows where his career is going? You look at the EFC champions. I mean, there's some phenomenal guys in the MMA space, boxing space, K1. Their careers will come to an end, and there's going to be a new person challenging them for that apex predator spot. And I suppose that's where the responsibility with you lies, is how do you ensure that development pipeline and making sure more boys, girls are exposed to the sport of K1?
So we put a lot of thought into this, because that's one thing that we found throughout our years that was a problem, is the pipeline that feeds talent from the first day they come into the gym to the pro league. There's always been gaps in my experience in certain amounts. But before I get there, I just want to go back to what you said. So I always say this to students and the athletes. I say to them, listen, if you think of a person who performs at a music festival, he gets on the stage, he sings, he does his song, he's an entertainer. People buy tickets to come watch him do what they do. You as a combat sport athlete, you're an entertainer. It's a spectator sport. People buy a ticket to come watch you do what you do. You're no different than any other entertainer. And if you're not going to be entertaining, people are not going to watch you.
Yeah.
And that's something you also have to understand. It's not always about winning fights. Yes, it's important, but it's about being entertaining, getting people to want to watch you. And you can be, different strokes for different folks. Some people don't like talking before matches, and that's fine. But then you've got to make sure that you're entertaining in a different way, so that you draw attention. And that's something I spoke to actually this weekend. We had our team training session for the World Championships. And I said to them, if you want to be an athlete that a promoter wants on their card, you've got to sell tickets. You've got to be entertaining. If you look at, I'm organizing a music festival, I want the best artist there with the biggest following. Otherwise, I'm not going to sell my tickets. And that's something I think a lot of people, MMA is different because I think it started from the promotion.
Yeah.
Where kickboxing in itself, because it's got the roots in traditional martial arts, the promotion aspect came second,
Sure.
if that makes sense. So that's where I feel there was a big gap, promoting it properly and getting the athletes to know how to promote themselves. Because then if I can go and I say, this person is really exciting, I get them on the card and I will pay a bigger purse for them.
Yeah. What are you looking for? I mean, here's the thing. If I look at the successful crowd pleasers, the promotion is looking for someone specific. And yes, you're looking for someone who entertains, you're looking for a bit of a personality, but you're also looking for a good human being who contributes back to the sport, who can potentially be an ambassador one day. But what are you looking for as president of this organization when putting together a card, when putting together development, teams for world championships? What are you looking for?
So that brings me to the development aspect. So we've built these different development paths for not just the athletes, but the officials as well. So we've got career paths for our judges and referees where they can earn income.
That's interesting.
We're sending people now to the World Championships to officiate at the World Championships. They're being paid, their accommodations being covered, their clothing's being covered. So they can go and have a career. You might not be able to fight, but you can still be part of it. So we have development opportunities for them.
That's fantastic, by the way. I'm interrupting you. Sorry. I think shout out to the officials, because it's a thankless job. If you're judging, if you're a ref, whatever it is, however you're involved, it's a thankless job. So it's wonderful to hear that you're empowering these people, because not everyone was made to be a fighter. I'm not a fighter. Despite my ginger hair and fiery temperament at times, I'm not a fighter. But the fact that you're opening this pathway is wonderful to hear. So yeah, please just carry on.
And I think it's very necessary. Like I always say to them, fights can't take place if the officials aren't there. Who's going to judge? Who's going to ref?
Because then it's a bar fight.
Exactly. Yeah. So they're so important. So we've got gradings for our officials so that we test them and give them new license cards. So they also have a sense of progression and they can work towards something. Now, with the athletes, we've got the same. We've got our model that starts them early,
What
developing
age
them.
group are you looking at?
So
when you
we start from 10.
Okay.
So we've got 10 with lighter controlled modes where we put them into so they can get used to in the ring with the lights. We've got what's referred to as the Junior Combat League, which has been a great success.
Fantastic.
Where we give them the opportunity to get in a safe, controlled environment. And we develop them from there, getting used to, the environment.
Yeah, I mean, they say the big lights, right? When you fight it and you've been there, it's different.
It's very different.
Yeah.
And the bigger the lights,
Yeah.
it does catch you. So we start with that, and we've got these different things. So, for example, we've got classifications. We've got D class up to A class amateurs. So D class, they've got extra protections. We've got knee pads on that we've trialed and tested. It doesn't really move. It gives you a nice, comfortable fit, and it gives you protection. So when they do knee strikes, it's covered.
Yeah.
Because one thing with my journey through other organizations and my combat sport career, I mean, it's been, I think it's 21 years now of doing combat sport. And I always say to people, you've got in kickboxing and other organizations, you've got your gloves, you've got your headgear, you've got your shin pads, but then you can knee someone with nothing in the face. You know what I mean? So I was always like, for a beginner, that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
That's very damaging. So we designed knee pads for the D-class fighters. When they fight, they take a knee in the face, not the end of the world. There's some protection. Then when they go to C class, they ditch the knee pads. Then we go to A class, shin pads get thin, headgears come off, gloves are a little bit different, more pro gloves. So they can get used to transition to pro. It's not a big jump, So we've done these things and we push them where we find them opportunities to get them to pro. So our whole model is to take an amateur fighter from day one and we do matching with our structure and our system to get him from there to be able to go pro and not just be like he needs more fights. There must be a development and support structure from the organization side to give this guy a clear path how to get there and how to earn an income. I mean, that's very important.
And we're talking boys and girls, right? I mean, in a country, and if you're not familiar with South Africa, wherever you're watching around the world, we don't have a great track record when it comes to gender-based violence, unfortunately. And it is a scourge that we're trying our very best to get rid of and change mindsets and that sort of thing. And I think it provides an opportunity for more girls, women, to get into combat sports for whatever reason. If it's for a bit of fitness, if it's for defending yourself or forging a career, the opportunity is there, right?
We've done a lot for that. I mean, we've got, to give you an example, most of our officials currently are women. We've got a lot of judges, a lot of referees, an influx of that. And I think because of, it was a part of a few reasons, but one of the things is because we've got these development programs. We've got our vice president, Celeste. She's been doing a phenomenal job with women's empowerment. We've got seminars where they would talk about things like hormonal cycles' impact on training, on performance, on cutting weight. These are things that often get overlooked.
Yeah.
Their bodies are different. And there are certain things that we've brought in to make the sport more accessible for female combat sport athletes. So there's a lot of women coming in as fighters, as officials. We now have...
That's fantastic.
Yeah, we've got the first Pro-Am world title fight where Celeste actually fighting for it in WKU in Germany in October.
Okay.
And we're using that also as a platform to showcase what South African women can do. We've got a lot of good athletes here. They just need to get into the spotlight.
So what's next? I mean... It's all good and well saying you have these structures, but you actually need to have athletes who are committed, representing your organization, and getting into the arena, if you like, and delivering the goods. I mean, how confident are you in this sort of pipeline of talent that's coming through as the tip of the spear, if I can put it that way, of the organization? How do you feel about this sort of talent that's coming through, and are you excited about the future?
Very excited, and we're very confident that this will work, because what we've done, I say to people, if you don't build a foundation properly and you build a house, it's not going to last long.
Absolutely.
We've spent a lot of time on strategic partnerships, building a solid structure that will give longevity and stability to the sport. Because if you don't do that, it's not going to last long. You're going to have a pool. If that pool, like you mentioned earlier, if those people retire, what then?
Yeah.
So our whole model and structure in the organization is designed to earmark new talent, develop them to the top, and keep feeding. That's why we've got events currently in each level. We've got for the juniors, we've got for the amateurs, the pro-ams, the pros, we've got the whole thing, and then we cycle that so that there's constant new blood coming through.
Yeah.
And one thing we also do is we work closely with the World Kickboxing Union, our international body, where we developed Africa. So we, for example, I mean, we've been 7 months odd that we've been active. And in this time, we've already brought 4 or 5 countries from Africa and everywhere else in here. So we had Ghana here, we had Angola here, we had now Zimbabwe here. And we bring these athletes in to give our local athletes international exposure, because that's the only way you're going to grow. And that gives us the platform to test our juniors, our seniors, our pros against the international opposition so that we can learn and grow. And we've done, for example, we had our first junior title fight now, where 2 exceptional junior athletes fought at the Junior Combat League. So that was great. And then we also had the first WKU Intercontinental Pro K1 title fight in South Africa at the Vodacom Dome last year. And it's Adrian Sparks van Wyk from the Western Cape won the title. So the South African's the champion.
Okay.
So he's now prepping for his defense. And then obviously we've got the World Pro-Am K1 title fight happening in Germany. So we've been very active in the last few months to push our athletes onto the world stage.
Money is always going to be a question. And we've seen promotions, some of the most sort of promising ones go through financial, bumps. And then when people are going, but why should I do kickboxing with K1 when I can potentially have a fast track in MMA? What do you tell them about that? Because the financial aspect is an important one, and being able to put food on the table for your family in a country like South Africa is a reality that we have to grapple with.
No, that's very true. One of the things we do is our organization firmly believes in collaboration, first of all. So we collaborate with different organizations, and we aim to create these opportunities for the athletes so that they can earn an income on multiple platforms if they wish to. Yeah. I mean, some of our pros fight K1 only. Some of them say, no, I want to compete in boxing as well. And if they allow it, we don't have a problem.
Are you comfortable with them sort of collaborating in other sports, if I can put it that way?
Yes. Okay. So there are certain things, for example, when they do fights, there are certain contractual agreements with the promoter. But other than that, I mean, I understand. Combat sport athletes has to make a living.
Yeah.
And fights are fights. Every fight they get more exposure, more ring time. And the problem in South Africa is the amount of fights. We don't fight regularly enough. If you look at the Europeans, they fight very often. So that's something we have done. So in our run, we have at least one event a month that we put down. And we do that to give the guys frequent exposure. And the majority of those we bring in international athletes. So when we do that, we can link them to international opportunities where the pay is good. I mean, we've got K1 events that have requested now for athletes, and it's good money. So there is good money in K1. The thing is just you have to work hard to get there. You have to be seen. You have to be different. You have to be promotable. And if that's the case, you can unlock many opportunities, whether it's MMA, whether it's K1, whether it's boxing. You've got to sell tickets. And if you can do that, the money will come. And yes, it is difficult to get there. And that's our organization aims to fill that supportive role to push them to be able to get there. And I think without that support, it's very difficult. And that's something we are taking a big challenge. It's quite ambitious to take that and say, we're going to be the support structure to get you from A to B. But so far, we've managed to do quite a lot. And we've, I think now, we had the number the other day, I think it's 36 athletes we've already connected with international opportunities since we started.
Fantastic.
So we've really been pushing that to try and get them out there.
That's wonderful to hear. I mean, that's giant strides in a short space of time. I think my question to you is, what is your vision now? 7 months in, what are we looking at 5 years, 10 years? I mean, you're still a young man. You're the president of this organization. What are you hoping to achieve, and what is your vision for this? Because as far as I'm concerned, if there's an opportunity for a young boy or girl to find a career in combat sports, and if it's in K1 through K1 South Africa and what you guys have been doing, that's fantastic, because it just means there's another opportunity for some rough diamond somewhere to kick on and be a world champion, not just a South African champion or continental, but world champion.
Yeah, so our vision, like you said now, is exactly that, to go and create opportunities for people where they can not only create a platform where they can build a legacy in the sport, but also earn an income. I mean, that's one of our big things, is we need people who can build careers out of this and get opportunities on the world stage. So our vision and what we've been doing is, first of all, to create innovative structures, which we've already done. So we've got online systems. We manage our officials. We track stats. Like we can pull, for example, how many referees, how many judges reffed female fights, how many of them have reffed, how many of them have judged, how many fights have they judged. We can pull all these stats. So we've really put in innovative structures to try and push the sport to the next level, modernize it. And I think going on in the next 3-5 years, the vision is to create K1 as a mainstream sport. That if you walk around, you say to people, do you know K1? They say, yes, I do know. That's what we want to do, so that the fighters who like striking, like myself, I mean, I've practiced many different combat sports in my life. I competed in at least 10 of them. And I had the philosophy with Bruce Lee, it says, take what is useful, from wherever. So I went and learned all these things. And striking was always the passion. Like grappling, I enjoy grappling. Yeah. It's good, it's very nice, and it's good for, self-defense and all those things. But striking's been my passion. Mm-hmm. And K1 striking, I absolutely love it. It's fast, it's dynamic, it's technically, nice to watch. Yeah. So I've always been a big fan of that, and to create a platform for people where they can build careers. They don't have to move to a different style. I mean, we've lost people, a lot, great stand-up fighters that say, there's no career for me here. It's a dead end. I'm not going to stay amateur for my whole life. And then they go do something else, which they're not passionate about, but it gives them an income. Yeah. And that's something for me that's passionate about K1. It's a sad thing to see. The people that's got talent and passion for it, they leave the sport because there's a dead end. And that's something we hope to change in the coming years.
Morné, it sounds like you guys have thought long and hard about this, and you actually are putting, that talk into action, which is fascinating. I'm going to put you on the spot here. How does it feel to be tasked with saving the sport that had its glory days in the 90s, is now being overshadowed? But does that put immense pressure on you to realize this dream, to get K1 to the place where it is, like UFC and Dricus at the moment?
There's pressure associated with it, but luckily my personality enjoys those situations.
Fair enough.
No, it's a competitive environment. It is pressure, and there are stakes, but it motivates me. And I think from me going through my journey, a lot of the things we put in place now, I would have liked to have as a fighter, as a coach, as a promoter.
Yeah.
And I think to be able to do that for other people, and to be able to give that platform to people who can say, I can do what I'm passionate about. I don't have to go change to a different style to do what I need to do. I love this. I want to do this. To give them that opportunity is what motivates me. Positive experiences in the sport, life-changing things. And I mean, when you do this, if you can see any instructor that's had any martial arts, gym, if you teach them properly, you'll see the change in the individuals, the confidence, the character that's getting strengthened. All these things, it's just incredible to see, especially if you take a junior from a young age. You see how they grow up, you see how they mature, how they can handle healthy, positive interactions, and even be direct and assertive without being rude, you can just see that confidence and assertiveness. If you see these changes, people overcoming their fears, people, keeps certain people off the streets as well. If they've got an income to do what they love to do, it counters a lot of things. So all of these things combined motivates me to do this. I really think we can. We've got a very good plan. We have thought long and hard about it. And the way that I do things, I always like to think on all sides of the coin. I live by the thing that says, if you can't argue for both sides, you don't know well enough to argue for either. So I've thought about everything 360 before we started this organization. There are challenges, big challenges, and we've got solid strategies to overcome them. And so far, we've done a lot in a short time frame. And it's just incredible to see after an event, the athletes are happy, coaches happy, they're motivated to do K1 specifically. I mean, just one thing, we've got a curriculum on K1, where you can do gradings in K1 that's internationally certified by the international body. And it gives you you could say, a development path from being a raw beginner to an expert in K1, and to see the growth and how it's taking off, people getting excited about it, and people are talking about K1 as like, the K1's so awesome. That's something that's awesome to see.
Puts fire in your belly, gets you out of bed in the morning.
It does.
Last one from my side. What does the rest of the year look like? I mean, what can we expect? Where can we sort of see these incredible athletes doing battle?
So we've got different leagues. At the moment, because we're so new now, we had to put in certain things to kickstart things. You would say you have to focus on many areas at once. You can't just do one thing, So it's a lot of balls to juggle, but so far everything is the stage is set. If you put it that way, we've launched the Pro League, we've launched the Junior League, we've launched the development platform for seniors and juniors. So we set the stage. Now the next phase is to try and push those forward. So we have obviously the title fights coming up. There's a few title defenses coming up. So people can watch our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram. You can watch our website, how we release these events when it comes up. So we've got quite a few big announcements coming up. You can also track on our social media today. We posted a video about the World Championship team that's partnered with NPL and those kind of things, that's helping them to get to the World Championships, which is also an historic moment for us. It's a K1 only team that's going to go compete overseas. I mean, that's also a great milestone for us. So they're quite excited. So there's a lot of things to look forward to, and we post these updates on our pages. And when we have the big events, like for example, when we have the international title fights in South Africa, it's an amazing event to come see.
When is the next one? Can you give us I'm putting you on the spot here, but are we looking this year at least somewhere?
Yeah, like probably second half of this year, we'll have a nice big event, and then people must come watch it. No pressure.
Sorry, putting you on the spot. Well, that's fascinating though. Morné, thank you so much for coming in. Thanks for educating us. Good luck on this journey of yours, the new chapter, I suppose, that's 7 months old. And I wish you all the best. And I think that the more we have people who have a sport's best interest in mind, that are there to groom the next generation, the next Mikes, the next Dricuses, the next Mornés, I think it really bodes well for the future. Keep up the great work. You're always welcome on the show, and we'd love to hear in a couple months' time what year one has been like for K1.
Thank you very much, Sias, and I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.